All right. I guess I'll start. So I'm Drew. I'm an addict. Um, some people know me by Andrew. That's my government name. But a couple of my buddies and my girlfriend and her mom are on here, so they all know me by Drew. But yeah. So my sobriety date is July 22nd of 23. Um, I got the usual thing. I got a home group, service work when I can, like this. This is well past my bedtime. I'm 40 now. I like to go to bed early, but when I can be of service, I'll definitely take an opportunity to do that. I'm not old enough to wear Crocs yet. That's a little shout out to my girlfriend's mom, inside joke. But anyways, yeah. So I guess I haven't done many of these, but I figure I'd give a little disclaimer to start it off. So I've learned in like this recovery journey and in these rooms that although each one of us has a different story, and there's different specific details. I mean, y'all are my people, and I know I can talk about real stuff. I know this is raw recovery, so I like to be open and honest and be raw about my experience and stuff like that. So if anyone can relate, hopefully they can get something out of where I'm at in my journey. Um, but with that being said, I'll probably talk about some topics that might be uncomfortable for some people. Um, just like with some abuse stuff that I went through as a child, some mental health issues that I've had, like involving some suicide attempts. And I know God, my Lord and Savior is Jesus Christ. I have no problem talking about that. I know some people don't like that, uh, but I'm not going to apologize for that. That's just the person I am today. Um, so yeah, but like I said, one of the blessings of recovery for me is that I can just be myself today. I don't have to be that fake, shady scumbag I was, in my addiction. This program is, it's just this program and living this way of life has given me a sense of peace and freedom that I didn't know was possible. Um, so yeah, and the way I've gotten that peace and freedom is being open and honest and uh, talking about my story, and the stuff that I kept inside of me for all my life. I covered it. And it wasn't always drugs and alcohol. That was part of the solution, they say, for my real problems, which was me. The guy that I saw in the mirror every day that I hated, that I didn't want to be around, and so I did things to not feel how I felt. But yeah, so that's just a little disclaimer. If anyone gets uncomfortable, feel free to mute me so you don't have to hear about it. But so yeah, I mean, a little bit about me. I was born in Sacramento, California. Born and raised out there. Spent 38 years of my life out there. Had amazing family. I'm the youngest of four children. I got two older brothers, older sister. Um, I was in private school my whole life. I was raised Catholic. Uh, and I had a great family life. My parents were amazing. They were married the entire time. Um, they were together, after they got married, when they had us, and up until the point where my mom passed away. But I had a really good childhood. That from the outside looking in, I guess you could say. But like I said before, I had some things happen to me, traumatic stuff that happened as a child, and things that shouldn't happen to kids. And I don't obviously condone that, but I mean, later on in my life, the fact that I was using that as an excuse for my behavior, I found out, like, that was keeping me, like, in prison, in my own mind, because I was letting, things that happened to me as a child, I used it as an excuse to do whatever I wanted to do to be, act out. Like, uh, Nicole might remember this. I don't know. She was a year older than me in school. She was in my sister's class, I think, at the time. But I was a kid that got suspended in kindergarten for a week for urinating on the walls. Uh, my parents should have known right out the gate that there's going to be an issue with me. That's how it was. I always acted out. And this is well before I got in to my addiction. So there's underlying issues with me as a child growing up. Um, and that just reiterated the fact that the drugs and alcohol were like a solution for my internal problem. That's spiritual malady, I guess I had. Like the big book talks about. But yeah, so like through childhood, I dealt with some other things. Like my mom was sick early on. She had a heart and lung transplant in 1989. That was pretty traumatic for me. Uh, the abuse stuff, and then as I got into my teen years and stuff, I dealt with a lot of depression from these traumatic events as a child. I went to counseling and stuff like a lot of us probably did. And I don't like to glorify like my youth because, like I said, y'all are my people. We all know what the deal is. We've all been there, done that. We know what that looks like. So I don't really like to get into my drug use, but my first use was in 8th grade. It was marijuana and alcohol, like most of us. It made me feel different. I liked it, and um, it made me feel comfortable. I've always had like social anxiety, kind of. Um, I always isolated myself. I didn't like being around people unless I had a reason to feel comfortable, and that made me feel comfortable. And then as far as like consequences, after that 8th grade going into freshman year, I think it was sophomore year I started to get like my first real consequences. I was hanging out with some buddies, and I got a minor in possession. I didn't go to jail, but it was embarrassing. My parents had to come pick me up from Jack in the Box parking lot, uh, and I got a minor in possession. But I kind of got off easy because I just had to. I was 16 years old. I got off, and it wasn't real a consequence that made me want to change my way of living. And then later on, probably like 5, 6 years after that, I was an EMT and a firefighter. I was working on an ambulance. I wasn't drunk on the ambulance, but I got a DUI one night, got arrested, and like my whole career that I thought I had planned out just went down the drain. I was in backgrounds to be a California Highway Patrol. I had gotten a job offer. I was in backgrounds with them, and lots of stupid decisions finally caught up to me. And that really, at that point, I just kind of, I didn't give up, but that really took me deep into my depression and stuff too. And after that, I started dealing with suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. And fast forward, I ended up getting married. My drug addiction, my alcohol addiction, my mental health issues caused me, to go through a divorce. I lost custody of my child. Um, had a protective order against me for my child because I was trying to figure out where she was at daycare, and I wanted to go kidnap her. Like just the insanity that we all know about in this addictive, disease. And I thought I was completely fine. I thought it was completely legitimate to put tracking devices on vehicles and try and go kidnap my own child. Like obviously any normal person knows that's psychotic. But to me, I thought it was normal. Uh, I thought I was being a good dad, and that's insane to think. That's the disease, like right there in the flesh. But so what happened? That's kind of like the first part of what it was like. Like I said, that's what it was like. And then what happened for me, just so a little bit on my first step experience, that powerlessness and unmanageability. Uh, my first step experience wasn't really like a single thing. It was more like a 2 month long process, really, for me. I'd been in and out of treatment centers and outpatient and jails, institutions, and on the verge of death after a suicide attempt. So, like, it got to the point where I was completely burned everything to the ground. My family wasn't talking to me uh, very much, but they were a little bit, and they ended up flying me out to Augusta, Georgia, to go to a treatment center out there. I finally said I wanted help because every time I went to a treatment center before, it was to try and get custody of my daughter back, or uh, trying to appease someone or somebody, try and deal with court stuff. It was the state or the court system that was sending me to treatment. Like it was never for me. Uh, so I came out to Augusta, Georgia. That's where I currently live right now. And I went to a treatment program, and that's where I first really got this glimmer of hope. Like I started meeting some men in recovery that went to this program called Bridges of Hope that was in Georgia. There was a bunch of alumni that worked there. Um, it's the first time I met people that I really felt comfortable around. Like I said, my girlfriend's on this. Like I met her in that treatment center. She's in recovery as well, and I always tell her about like the first time I walked in the doors. She was the first one to come up and introduce herself to me, and she's a cute girl. She's got a little southern accent. Like I feel like I'm on another planet. I'm coming to the South from California. Like people talk weird. It's hot. It's sticky. There's bugs. It's weird. Um, and she introduced herself, and like the people there, like that was my first glimmer of hope. But of course, my own stupid thinking and being out of my comfort zone, like I was there for like 10 days and ended up getting kicked out for you know sort of not really attempting suicide, but saying I wanted to kill myself. But I had a plan the whole time. Uh, that's just like the insanity too. Like I knew that if I said I wanted to kill myself, they would send me to a hospital, put me on a hold, and that's exactly what they did. I got out of there. I stole my dad's credit card. I got a plane ticket back to California and went back at it again. Um, I traded my luggage in Los Angeles for dope. And then at this point, my family just completely disowned me. My dad had notified the neighbors at his house that if they saw me to call the police. Um, all my other family members weren't picking up their phones. They deleted me from social media, just like everything. I had nothing. So, but like I said, that glimmer of hope that I had, I started seeing people like the hope and the grace and the happiness they had in recovery. And one of the therapists at the first program I went to in Augusta randomly hit me up, and it was like one of those God shots. Like it wasn't like a spiritual awakening, but it was just one of those things. Like I could tell there was a higher power in my life working, because I got a random text from my therapist that I met with like 2 times at this recovery center. And he said, "Hey man, I got you into this place called the Bridges of Hope. If you can get back out to Georgia," he's like, I have it completely paid for you for 6 months." And again, I was going to do that because I had nothing else to do. So I drove across the country, went to the Bridges of Hope. I was there for like 2 weeks. It was uncomfortable for me. I was detoxing off of opiates, and I had my car there. And my insane thinking, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm going to drive back to California with $80 on my cash app. Just completely stupid and psychotic thinking. But I left, and I thought I had it figured out. I'm like, I've been here for about 10 days, just like at the first treatment center I went to. And, I got it figured out now. I didn't start feeling good, but, I figured, I'm going to get this on my own. So I left there, and I spent the next 2 to 3 weeks trying to panhandle. I spent $80. It made me like a state over from Georgia. I ended up panhandling for money. Got to Dallas, Texas. Ended up selling my phone for drugs. I wanted to sell my phone for money for gas, and decided to get high instead. And got my car repoed, and then I was homeless. The first time in my life I'd been homeless. My car got repoed in Dallas. I had nowhere to go, and so I was homeless in Dallas, and for about 2 weeks. And at that point, like, that was it for me. I finally was ready to surrender. Like, I can't keep living like this. So I ended up getting money to get a bus back to the Bridges of Hope, man. And I stayed there for 8.5 months. I just started doing what people told me. Um, you know, and like with step two, I started having hope. I started believing in a higher power. At that time, my higher power was just this place called the Bridges of Hope, because at that point I didn't lose trust in God, but I felt like a victim. Like I had this victim mentality my whole life. And I wasn't at the point where I could figure that out yet. So at that point, the Bridges of Hope was my higher power. And all I needed, that's all I needed at the time, because I didn't have anything else. Everything was gone. Every material thing. I showed up back at the Bridges that second time, but I had a pair of khakis and a t-shirt from a homeless shelter. I hadn't had underwear on for 2 weeks. I hadn't showered for 2 weeks, and I had a pair of flip flops that the homeless guy had given me in uh, Daily Plaza in Dallas. And I was completely hopeless. Uh, so I was ready to accept this something greater than myself, to allow me to see life from a different perspective and create a new sense of accountability, because I didn't have any accountability or perspective on life or how I should be living. Um, and at the Bridges of Hope, you get there and it's very strict. A lot of people think it's like a military type rehab, but they're just very strict, and they get us. You got to get a sponsor within like the first week of being there. You got to get through step 5 before before your 30 days is up. Um, and I got a sponsor. I started working these steps, and I got to step 3, and I just finally turned my life over to the care of God as I understood Him. And for the first time in my life, after all the previous attempts to get sober for everything and everyone other than myself, like I said, I was finally done, and so I finally completely burned everything to the ground, and and I decided that I needed to have faith in something greater than me. And being at the Bridges of Hope, in that first, we call it the first chair. That's the white chip guys, the first, just coming back. Um, I had this feeling of being welcomed, and these are my people, and I really felt love like I had never felt before. It's hard to even describe, and that's what gave me the faith in that something was going to happen, and I was ready, you know. And so I was working with my sponsor. I made my inventory. Um, I just put everything down on paper, all from, and I'd never gotten to it before. So I've been in and out of the meetings. Like I said, I've been to treatment centers before. Uh, but like like a lot of people have said, or I've heard, they were scared of the 4-step inventory. But I was ready to like get that stuff going, man. I was so tired of living like this. So I put everything on paper. I think my 4-step was like 18 pages long. Me and my sponsor, we were together like 3.5 hours, I think, going over my 4-step. And this was like a real soul searching process for me. Um, I've heard there's like no single moment that defines healing, um, instead of culmination of intentions and actions that lead you down the right path. And in that soul searching, that 4-step, like this is where that started for me. I started looking like objectively, inward at myself. Um, and this really helped me figure out the person that I wanted to be. I was tired of being that junkie, or, the black sheep of the family, the family member, the sibling that no one wanted to be around. Like, and I didn't want to be the person that didn't want to be around everyone else. Like, I hated going to family events. My family hated me at events. They knew something was always wrong. So, that 4-step was really like a soul searching thing for me, like figuring out who I wanted to be. Uh, and then I just, like I said, I got it that step 5, I got it off my chest, man. I put it all out on the table, and it felt like such a weight off my shoulders, just telling another man everything that I've had inside of me that's just been tearing me apart, and, that I've never talked. I've been to therapy my whole life. And I agree with therapy a lot. Like, but for me, it never worked because I was never honest, man. I never was honest about anything in my life until I sat across the table with a crackhead um, that I told all this stuff to for 3.5 hours, and he told me the same. Like it's almost like we live like the same life, just in separate places. Like it was crazy, man. It was really eye opening. Um, and made me feel really comfortable with telling my story and telling other people what I've been through. I'm not embarrassed about it anymore. Like if there's one thing I say tonight that can help somebody, like that's a success. Like that's what this is all about. Uh, but yeah, so like my fifth step, I figured out my sponsor. He's just as messed up as I am. All of my boys, I got a bunch of my boys from the Bridges of Hope on here tonight. Like it's just like it's awesome. And we're all the same, man. It don't matter. But yeah, so 6 and 7, I was ready to have God remove all these defects of character. I finally became willing to just stop being the scumbag that I was, um, and then I'd humbly ask Him to remove my shortcomings. I found out like at the Bridges we had this weekend, like not retreat thing, but it was called the Wall. We have guest speakers come in and talk about these, walk us through each step, and actually the therapist that got me in to the Bridges of Hope, he kind of explained like defects of character, like those are like our learned behaviors from childhood and throughout life. Like those are those like things that are like ingrained in you as a child and growing up, and and then the shortcomings are acting out on those behaviors. So it was for me like I know that God is the only one that can remove those defects of character. And there's certain things about me that might never be removed. I'm sure my girlfriend prays all the time that there's some things that would be removed from me that God would work a little faster on. But the thing really is like the shortcomings is not acting on the still kind of crazy thoughts that I might have. And it has nothing to do with like drugs or alcohol. Really, that's just uh, whatever growing up, like having anger issues or depression and stuff like that. Like today, I can pray and meditate and talk to other men in recovery. I can talk to my girlfriend, people that I'm comfortable with, and I know now I don't have to act out on those shortcomings. And I'm just rolling through these steps, and I'll kind of talk about what it's like now. But 8, 9, make a list of amends. I still got my amends list in my big book. I think it's like 3 or 4 pages long. There's probably like 80 people on there. I break them up into rows. I got all these people. I got now, later, and now, soon, or later, something like that. And deciding like if these are people that I can make amends with, or if it's people like it says like unless it's going to do harm. But I never put never, and that was something that someone taught me because I always leave open the chance of making amends with anyone that I hurt in life. And then my last row is for financial amends. I've gotten through several of them, but it's a lifelong process. There's probably people I'll never be able to make amends to, which is fine. I feel like I think Roscoe, one of the guy that runs the Bridges of Hope, used to say like just cleaning your side of the street and putting the good things back out into the universe. Uh, I'm not going to make amends with someone that I might cause more damage to, but just doing the next right thing is what's important. And then 10, 11, 12, I got to live in that every day. I don't always take that be a lie. I don't always take my personal inventory, but I'm surrounded by people that help me with that. Um, I got people in my life that I trust now that will call me out on my BS, um, and I need that quite a bit. But yeah, 11, pray and meditate daily. I have a really good routine. like I said, my girlfriend's in recovery. She's coming up on a year. Super proud of her. She'll have a year on March 19th. But we have a really good routine. Like, we always every morning we'll do or every morning we try to do a devotion together, um, and we try and do a Bible reading at night. That's a huge part of my recovery too. Um, like my relationship with God, my higher power, like that's the reason why I'm where I'm at today. Um, so that's super important to me for prayer and meditation. Step 11. If I have a favorite step, that's definitely it. Like I love prayer and meditation, and keeping that connection, with my higher power, and then passing the message. I had sponsees while at the bridges, and then when I got out of the bridges and stuff like that, I don't have any right now, but I'm always willing to sponsor someone. Um, I find a lot of peace in that too, like sitting across the table from another man, helping them, walking them through these steps. There's something special about that. But yeah, like as far as what it's like now, man, like my life is so good, it's insane. Like obviously, there's days where they're not great, but like that's life. Like just my relationship with my family. Uh, they actually talk to me, man. Like my brother came and visited me. I was at the bridges for 8.5 months. Like I could not believe this is the brother that flew me out to Georgia and paid for me to stay in this 30-day detox. And I mean, we all know how much those places cost. He paid for it, and I stayed there for like 9 days and left and stole my dad's credit card. And uh, these people. I took my girlfriend out to California to visit my dad. Uh, I would have never thought in a million years my dad would even allow me back. I didn't think he would allow me back in the state. Um, God forbid, like even to his house. Uh, but the fact that my sister, I have a relationship with my girlfriend and I, like we FaceTime my nieces and nephews on my niece's birthday, like these things that I never thought would ever be possible again. Um, and it's just amazing. I live with two of my best friends, Bridges of Hope. I'm shouting out Bridges of Hope all the time. They saved my life, so I say it a lot. But I live with my two of my best friends, who are also in recovery. They're both coming up on 2 years in March, and we all work together. Like it's like life is just so good. It's insane. And I thought for a long time, like, how could being sober ever be fun? Um, because I know that first day, the first time I ever used, like, I couldn't stop laughing. Uh, but it got to the point where that last time I used, I literally could not stop crying. Like, it was the most depressing, sad existence. And now, like, life is just so good. But we gotta get. I could go on forever, but we got such good, like, big plans. Like, my girlfriend and I were getting baptized in March, on the 23rd. Like I said, I was raised Catholic. I know I got sprinkled as a baby, but we joined a church, in South Carolina where she lives, and we joined the church a couple weeks ago. Um, we're getting baptized at the end of March. Like I'm super excited. Like the blessings that this program and being sober has brought to my life are beyond anything I could have ever dreamed of. Uh, like I said, I live with my best friends. I work with my best friends. The company all of us work for, it's owned by the guy in recovery. Uh, it's just like, and that's the people I got to surround myself with. Really, people that understand me. I understand them. We're there for each other. We know what this is like. We know where it can go if it goes bad. And we really like motivate each other. It's cool. Like I said on um, the little posting thing, my quote was, "Sobriety is the greatest gift I ever gave myself." Um, I was thinking about that today. Like I was trying to jot down some notes and stuff and try to make this good or entertaining or whatever. But I was thinking it's like the funny thing about that quote I chose is I didn't give sobriety to myself. You know, God and the rest of all you guys, and you know my brothers and in recovery, and like you all are the ones that gave this gift to me. You know, and I'm forever grateful for that. I couldn't do this without God and without my recovery family. Um, but yeah, man, it's like life is so good, and obviously the most important thing is, you know, I woke up today. I didn't want to kill myself like I wanted to do for probably the 20 years in my addiction. Uh, I don't think there was a day that I ever went by that I didn't think about just ending it. Um, and that thought doesn't come to my mind anymore. Like the sense of peace and grace I have in my heart and in my mind is just beyond words. And um, I'm wanting to get high. Like that obsession has been lifted. I'd be lying if I didn't think about it sometimes, but um, there's no obsession like that's been completely lifted for me. Like thinking about getting high is like thinking about going and jumping in front of a car. Like it's just a thought. I would never cross my mind to do it again. Because you know, life is so good. I have so many blessings in my life, and I'm super grateful. Um, but yeah, man, that's all I got really. Thanks for letting me share.
I was unmuted. I'm sorry. I'm talking to myself. Okay. So it's really crazy how, did I stop it?